What's up, guys? Happy Saturday. Chuck Silver here, with Occupy Fantasy, to bring you the strategy for DraftKings and FanDuel. Had some tech difficulties with Jayhawk's mic, so for now, looks like I'm going solo today. Appreciate you guys being here. Hope you can stand to listen to my rambling alone for 45 minutes. Uh, Man, I was going to start with some funny stuff about Miles Bridges yesterday, but that was just unfortunate. I think we nailed the slate, except for my top take. Just listen to the model. Um, what did we do? I thought we had a good one yesterday. I think the general strategy, just play some guys that the field isn't getting to, fade the chalk a little bit, kind of works. So probably just going to keep doing that today. Appreciate you guys showing up early, though. Appreciate you guys waiting for us. Living in the mid range today on FanDuel. Well, FanDuel's interesting because we have the craziest piece of chalk I've ever heard of. Drew Timmy. This guy wasn't in the NBA 3 days ago, but now it's 50% owned on FanDuel. And I think it's correct. I'm playing a ton of Drew Timmy today. I mentioned in our Discord earlier that so I bet mostly on exchanges, and some guy put up $20,000 on Drew Timmy's over 20.5 PRA, which is the most amount of money I've ever seen anyone put on one prop. So I didn't take the under, even though it's supposedly a good bet. But Drew Timmy, 50% owned on FanDuel at power forward only. Still not in the DraftKings player pool, but I think we just play him. He played 24 minutes last game. I can't pull him up because he's not in the DraftKings player pool, but it's a big piece of FanDuel today. Yeah, Yankees went off, dude. Baseball is fun. Took down the Dodgers showdown last night. I got stack corrected in the first in the $1, so that was nice. All right, I'm just gonna jump into it, fellas. Go team by team because I'm weirdly feeling a little bit nervous about being by myself today. But we're gonna start with this first team, Brooklyn. Drew Timmy, man, 11.9 FanDuel value is not great. Obviously, the OF index isn't good, but we have one game sample on this guy. Apparently, he's doing really well in the G League, but we have him projected for 19.7 minutes. Like I said, he played, I believe, exactly 24 last game. I don't know. Like we got guys in and out of the lineup. Noah Clowney's questionable today. If he's in, maybe that gets rid of Drew Timmy. But I mean, we have 24 minutes for Noah Clowney, and we still have Timmy at 20 projected minutes. So on FanDuel, I think we just listen to the. I mean, model's not saying to play him, but he's 50% owned. I don't think we should be fading him. I'm going to be playing him a lot. He's currently my highest exposed player on FanDuel. It's just he's min priced, and if he can get close to 20 minutes, he seems like a productive player. Other guys on the Nets that stand out: Keon Johnson on DraftKings, Jalen Wilson on DraftKings. They're both pulling a little bit of ownership. I think these guys are a little bit deeper of value plays, but we can certainly get to them in this first game. No one else on DraftKings stands out. Cameron Johnson, I think that his ownership was a little bit higher earlier, but at 8 and 10%, it's probably okay. It's not a great price. I mean, this team is bad, but this is a prime matchup against Washington, so this is probably a spot we could take shots. Over on FanDuel, I mean, Noah Clowney, if he's in, I guess we can take some chances. 4,100, though, at 23%. Like, Noah Clowney is just a guy who's disappointed us over and over again. And so if this ownership stays around here, I don't mind getting to him. See how the ownership plays out between him and Drew Timmy closer to lock, but I'm probably okay just getting away from Noah Clowney. It might sound weird because Drew Timmy, like I said, was not in the NBA a few days ago, but I feel like that's a better spot. He already shows he's more productive on a like one game sample. Other side of this game, Washington. We have an interesting one here. We got Marcus Smart in the lineup today. Chris Middleton's out. Oh, sorry, my filter's wrong. Yeah, and Kaishan George is missing too. Couple guys popping up here. AJ Johnson pulling 19 and 15% ownership. I don't think it's terrible, but it's a guy that I'd like to find alternatives to, especially over on FanDuel. The 4,300 on DraftKings is a little better, but model's not identifying him as elite. Jordan Poole, his minutes are really weird. We have him projected for 23. I think he played more than 23 minutes last time, right? He's been pretty productive in the minutes he's played. All right, so 24. It's just tough. We're hoping he spikes a ceiling in really limited minutes. It's really hard to play a guy like Jordan Poole. I'd rather get to Carlton Carrington, who the model is identifying him as an elite value today. 15 on DraftKings, 14.2 on FanDuel, 11 and 10% ownership. This is a player I'm interested in getting over the field on. Same with Justin Champagne. Models identifying him as a really strong value at 4,800 on DraftKings, only 13% ownership. I'm going to go right back to him. So we saw a couple games ago, he went off in his limited minutes. Was this 22 minutes? He put up 37, but he got up to 33 minutes last time. Yeah, they won by 100, but and I think he actually got some of that blowout run. He almost failed in his 33 minutes. He got there at the end, but I'm going right back. It's a good matchup against Brooklyn, and I think he's a little bit underowned according to the model. And then the top play from Washington, Alexander Sarr, playing a bunch on both sides. His minutes have been kind of limited too, but at least he's getting around 30. He's gotten that last rotation a couple times. This is projected to be a close game. I don't know if he's competing with Stephon Castle for Rookie of the Year anymore, but maybe if he really goes off in the last 10 games, he can, give himself a better chance. But elite by every metric in the model, 6,600 on DraftKings. I think we can get over the field on Alex Sarr pretty comfortably. Yeah, I mean, mid range, we already have a couple good mid range plays here. I know that like the pay ups all kind of burned us yesterday. Giannis was awful, and then Jokic missed his last rotation. He still kind of got there though. And then today, like the pay ups on the slate. Well, Luca against Memphis, I really like. The ownership, I think it's fine for the price. He hasn't been as productive on the Lakers, but I mean, against Memphis, this is a really high total, 239.5. It's highest on the slate, and he's the best player in the game. So we like getting to Luca. SGA. Yeah, I'm going to be jamming SGA on DraftKings. Again, his ownership's a little bit higher today, but against Indiana, this is a really good matchup for him. So we like SGA, LeBron. There's just not that many payups. So yeah, we probably are living in the mid range. And then Josh Giddey, fourth in the model, 50% ownership at max price. Again, elite by every metric in the model. So yeah, Josh Giddey is going to be a prime piece of our lineups today. Saucer, I'm assuming that's Hauser for Boston. Is that the next game? I'll talk about Boston after we talk about Miami, Philadelphia. Get this question out of here. Let me jump back to Brooklyn real quick, actually, and talk about Watford. Thank you for reminding me. So Watford's a guy I've been fading. He's showing up as chalk because his median projection is really good in projections, or in optimizers, I should say. Projected for 13 and 20% ownership. This is just not the price I want to pay for him. Like, this isn't extreme ownership, but he's single digit value on both sites. I just crossed him out of my player pool today. Uh, like, just model saying don't play him. It's a lot of ownership. Rather take the shots on Drew Timmy. Model doesn't love Drew Timmy either, but at least it likes him more than Trendon Watford over on FanDuel. Save the $1,600. Miami at Philadelphia. Got Miami as 8.5-point favorites. It's a pretty low total, 215. Got some heavy ownership on Miami here, though. Tyler Harrow, Bam Adebayo, even Khalil Ware, double digits. Haywood Highsmith, 25 and 23%. Did Haywood Highsmith like go off last game? So Alec Burks is questionable. Andrew Wiggins is out. Duncan Robinson's out. Those are the big pieces there. I don't think these guys deserve that high of ownership, though, just because they're missing two role players. It doesn't really make sense. I mean, Andrew Wiggins is better than a role player, but Haywood Highsmith gets big minutes regularly. He's 3,400, so he's cheap. He helps lineups work. I don't hate it. 25 and 23%. On DraftKings, at least, model does think he's elite, so we can probably play him a lot over there. On FanDuel, still elite, borderline elite, but DraftKings 3,400. That's a really good price at the small forward, power forward position. Davion Mitchell's been coming off the bench, but he's been fantastic. Maybe they switch up the starting lineup tonight with Andrew Wiggins out. And then if Alec Burks ends up getting ruled out, I mean, we already have Davion for 33 minutes. I don't know that we'd give him more. Maybe it goes up by 1 or 2, but he's going to look like a really strong play too. At this ownership, I think this is a guy that we want to get to, especially if you're interested in getting away from Harrow and Bam a little bit. I still think they're good plays. I'm getting to more Bam than I am of Harrow. That might just be due to positioning, but yeah, on both sides, I'm getting to more Bam. So going by straight DK value, Bam doesn't look great. Probably going to reduce that a little bit, actually. But we can take shots on the other guys. Khalil Ware doesn't always close, so hopefully he closes if we play him. I would set a rule, max 3. I probably just set a global rule, max 3 from any team today. But from this team in particular, I don't know that I want all the pieces here. Like maybe if you end up with Haywood Highsmith, Davion Mitchell, and Bam Adebayo, that's probably an okay trio to have in a lineup. But I don't think I'd want more than that. Kyle Anderson's pulling 10% ownership on DraftKings. He's 3,100. Model thinks he's fine, though. So we can get him in there. I get exposure. I didn't get any exposure myself on my first run, but maybe I bumped that up a little bit. I guess he's not a bad play. Have him projected for 19 minutes. It's not great. Sometimes he'll play a little bit more, but at least that's like a real minutes projection for him versus the 12 we had for him before. Sharp and Claxton are out. Nice. Yeah, it's even better for Drew Timmy. Yeah, I missed that. Sorry, guys. I'm like I said, it's hard to keep up injuries, the news, questions when I'm solo today. But we'll go to the other side of this game, Philadelphia. What are we doing with Quentin Grimes? Model doesn't love him today. He's only projected for 3 and 7% ownerships, though. So you guys know what I'm going to do. We're going to play a little bit of Quentin Grimes. Not a lot, but I think we can mix him in. It's a terrible matchup against Miami, but his usage has still been through the roof. So I don't mind taking a few shots. Probably don't want more than like 10% on DK, though, if you are going there. No one else on this team stands out. Ricky Council, borderline elite on DraftKings at 5,200. It's just the price is not great. I think there's much better options today. Ownership is pretty low, though, on everyone here. And so Justin Edwards' price has been coming up. I still don't hate it. Like I said, awful matchup, but he's been way overperforming. 5,700 on DK, 12.3. It's not the worst. It's probably about the extent of the shots I want to take here. It's probably okay just to avoid this this whole team. It's like we're interested in Miami, so it makes sense if we want to run it back with at least one Philadelphia guy, but don't force it. Now we got Boston here. I'm assuming Saucer in the chat was supposed to be Hauser. We're without Al Horford and Peyton Pritchard today. All right, let's just see what the model says here. For value, Luke Cornett. I'm assuming this. I don't even know if this is assuming he starts. We only have him for 24 minutes, so even if he's off the bench, he could play 24 minutes. This is probably fine with no Al Horford. No one else stands out, though, on DraftKings. Drew Holiday's the closest, but I really don't want to pay 5,800 for him. I mean, 230 total, 12.5 point spread. It's fine. Kristaps Porzingis. I hate this guy every day, but at least model's telling us we don't really have to play him that much today. We can mix him in for sure. Tatum, worst 10K play of all time, but he's only 10% owned. 11.7 OF index is still strong, even if the values aren't as good points per dollar. We have the value to get up to pretty much whoever we want today. And like a lot of the chat saying, I guess we're living in the mid-range a little bit more. And then Jaylen Brown and Derek White. I mean, they're pulling 10% ownership on FanDuel. Definitely more interested in getting to them over there at these lower prices, but they still don't really stand out. But everyone here is playable, just GPP shots. I think I'd prefer the other pay-ups, and the model kind of does too, except for Tatum. Other side here, we got the San Antonio Spurs. We got news that Gigi and Yuki Kawamura are in for the Grizzlies. So we got the Spurs here. Chris Paul, 15.3 DK value, projected for 13%. He's down to 4,300. I don't think it's a great play. Model thinks he's fine, though. It's just a question of the minutes. Model can't predict these wacky minutes. I mean, randomly got 33 in a close game against Cleveland, but he's been in the low 20s other than that, 31. So he can spike a minute ceiling, I guess, but even in those 33 minutes, he did pretty poorly. It's a tough matchup against Boston. Don't love Chris Paul, but the model's saying we can definitely get there for 4,300 at 13%. He's starting to remind me of Mike Conley. He's still a little more productive than Mike Conley, but Harrison Barnes, top of value here, 8%. It's a guy that I'm willing to get over on every day. 3,600, it's a fine price. He's not going to play max minutes, but we just need him to hit a few threes. Keldon Johnson, I'm still comfortable getting to. Julian Champagnie, 3,400. He's been going a little bit overlooked. I don't think the model has loved him. The model's thought he's okay, and the model thinks he's fine today. 16% ownership. The field's getting to him a little bit more. We do have some of these guys right near 3K, though, so we don't have to force in Champagnie, but I like him. We like his brother on Washington, too. Vassell's a little lower today, but he's pretty good at 4.2% ownership. I think we can take shots against Boston. It's only a 12.5 point spread, right? And then Castle, model doesn't love him for, straight just points per dollar value, but 8.6 OF index is still pretty strong at 6,600 and the ownership. So I think it's mostly just shots on these guys. No one's a priority here. Let's see. Which studs? I just saw a good question from Jose. Which studs? I'm assuming that's studs in my top lineup, not states. Over on DraftKings, SGA and Josh Giddey are in both my top lineups. Yeah. And then over on FanDuel, SGA and Josh Giddey. I don't know. It seems very simple. Model isn't on both of them today. Other than the Lakers guys, they're the best plays on the slate. I mean, Kobe White is insane off index today. This is probably a pretty good pivot if you're going to get a little bit less Josh Giddey or just try and make it so you get more Kobe White in lineups that don't have Josh Giddey. You can definitely play them together, but Kobe White actually stands out. 15.0 value on both sites. Like overall, Kobe White this could be a really good play. Still pulling the ownership. Play him in lineups with Josh Giddey, but just consider that pivot a little bit. But yeah, and then SGA against Indiana. I mean, as long as he's under 11K, like I said, the ownership is there, but I think he's such a strong play today. How do I feel about rostering 4 nets for FanDuel single entry? Which 4 nets would that be? Let me see what I got here. If it's like Drew Timmy, I'm not even getting exposure to 4 nets total over on FanDuel in my 100 lineups. I'm just going to say I probably don't want to get to 4 nets in one lineup today. Value plays that I like on the Heat. If Alec Burks is out, we like Davion. If Alec Burks is in, we can still play Davion, and then we can still take shots on Burks too, since he'll be starting probably. They call him Bam because that's what your head sounds like against the wall when you see 30 fantasy points instead of 50. Sometimes we're lucky to get that 30, man. Watford's the only big on DraftKings for the Nets. We'll see what that starting lineup is. If he ends up starting, then we're going to like him. Maybe the model will update after that news in a few minutes. We'll check. Value plays on the Nets. All right, we'll take a quick look at the Nets. Let me refresh this. Let's wait a few minutes for the model to update, actually. I'll get back to that. Next game, Dallas and Chicago. So AD's been back. He looks terrible. I really don't understand why they're playing him at all right now. I have zero exposure to Dallas on DraftKings, and I have a couple shots on Klay Thompson and one shot on PJ Washington on FanDuel. So I think Smitty just said to cross his team out the other day. They're just not that great of plays. Their prices are all still kind of inflated, and with their best player coming back, Anthony Davis, it just means that everyone is overpriced. I'm noticing Kai Jones stand out on DraftKings in the model, 4,900, 0% ownership. There's no way he can be a good play, but maybe he's worth more than 0%. It's not something I'm going to recommend, but I don't know. Model says it's fine. Even at only 21 minutes. We do have Anthony Davis projected for 29 minutes today, and he's starting to get projected for real fantasy scores again. He's pulling 10% ownership. Model's saying he's awful, so keep that in mind. I'm not getting there at all today, like I mentioned. And then Klay Thompson, the guy that I'm getting a little on FanDuel. Model doesn't love him. He's pulling 14% ownership. PJ Washington's at 12. I mean, I guess the field agrees. These are kind of the two guys we could get to. Spencer Dinwiddie was going off. That was without AD. That's not to say that he can't go off with AD in the lineup. So at 2 and 3%, I mean, 6,400 is not a good price for him. But the model actually thinks he's not bad for 6,400. This is a strong OF index, and this is a surprisingly high value for the price. So Spencer Dinwiddie. Other side of this game, the Bulls. I mean, Josh Giddey is just the best player. Like I was on Quentin Grimes for a few weeks. We're on Josh Giddey right now, man. Industry finally got his projection up today. He's chalk, 52, 46% owned, 9,200 on DK, 9,700 on FanDuel. I think these prices are fine. Projected for 36 minutes. They're letting him run. This is like his last, maybe 10 games? Let's see. Look at this run of games that he's had. Josh Giddey is an like bona fide all-star if he keeps this up going into next season. Minutes are great. Wish he would take a few more shots, but I mean, I just feel like the rebounds and assist floor is so good that it's really hard for him to burn us. Not that we care that much about him burning us in GPPs, but model loves him by every single metric. He's probably one of the best plays on the slate. And according to the model, he probably is the best play on the slate. Him and Kobe White, just going off the DK value OF index. Kobe White, awesome play. We want to play him too. Modest Buzelis is showing up here, 14.7 DK value. I wasn't sure about this kid, but he's flashing a little bit. He'll have a future. He's pretty young. Under 10% ownership for 4,500 on DK is pretty solid. 14.7 DK value. That's a value play I'm interested in getting over the field on. Kevin Werder, the price is a little uncomfortable. I'm not sure I understand the ownership, though. Vooch is back in the lineup, and I guess Werder's like their six-man type guy, but on FanDuel, I think I like it a little more even at that higher ownership. But on DraftKings, if you can find any other players to play, I think that's fine. Model still thinks he's okay, though. 8.0 OF index at 6K with these 13 whatever values is still strong, though. So you don't have to fade. If he's like the last guy in, that seems great. Vooch, good DK values. 10 and 9% ownership. I'm comfortable getting to him under 8K. It's a little bit tougher matchup against a hobbled AD, but he's probably worth a few shots. And then Pat Williams, if he was closer to like 3,400, I would understand it a little bit more, but he's up to 38 and 3,900. He's pulling 9 and 14% ownership. We haven't projected for 25 minutes. This is a possible pivot as value, but I'm not loving it. High owned cheap guys. Let's take a look. Like the chalk on the slate is all pay ups right now. Haywood Highsmith. Let's play with the filters up here a little bit. Let's do under 6K on DraftKings and see what we get. Highsmith, Vucevic, Kason Wallace, AJ Johnson, Jalen Martin, Keldon Johnson. I mean, it's pretty. I don't think this is a terrible collection of value plays. Julian Champagnie, Keldon Johnson, Isaiah Joe's a little bit deeper. I'm surprised he's pulling that much ownership, but he is only 3,600. Only guy, him and Jalen Martin are the only guys in single-digit value here, so those are probably two guys that you can avoid just right off the bat. Kobe Jones, we'll see if he starts. If he starts, I'm going to like him a lot. If he's off the bench, he's probably still okay off the bench. Justin Champagnie. I think all these are pretty fine. I mean, just take note of what the model thinks about their values. And most of these guys are model approved, but like Alec Burks really stands out. Kason Wallace, Highsmith, Champagnie, Davion, Chris Paul, Keon, Carlton Carrington all stand out on DK. And then for FanDuel, like, yeah, all these guys look pretty good. Let's start by FanDuel ownership, actually. Keon Johnson, highest owned FanDuel value. Why? I don't really understand that one. I think he's fine to play. I don't get why he's the highest owned guy under 6K on FanDuel. Same with Clowney. If he starts, I mean, yeah, I guess they got no big men, but model likes him at least. Haywood Highsmith, Tyrese Martin, awful. Trendon Watford, still awful, man. I just refreshed, I think. Trendon Watford. No, maybe I didn't. See, Trendon Watford still single-digit values on both sides, 25 minutes. Drew Timme, he hasn't changed, still 20 minutes. I mean, Noah Clowney's the guy that stands out by the model at big. So if you want to go there, Jalen Wilson, 14.7 on DK is pretty strong at 3,400. It's a tough team. Talk about it every time Brooklyn's on the slate. Vooch or Hartenstein on FanDuel. I think they're both probably pretty good plays. Center. Take a look at FanDuel centers. Moving quick today since I'm by myself, so we have a little bit of time to dig into the slate overall before we get to these last two games. But centers on FanDuel, sort by value. Sar's number one. He probably is the easiest play. I think we want to get him in at power forward. Vooch looks pretty good. Hartenstein and Vooch, they're essentially a coin flip. Maybe if you can do something with that $400, Hartenstein, Vooch at half the ownership. Yeah, not sure I have a straight answer there for you. Vooch, slightly higher OF index. Maybe that's a tiebreaker you can use. Timmy's not in the player pool on DraftKings. He's only on FanDuel. Dinwiddie on FanDuel. Yeah, like I said, he's low owned. He's probably worth taking some shots. Marshall for a single entry on FanDuel. Let's go to Dallas. Najee Marshall. Model doesn't love him today at 7,200, 1%. If I'm playing, like I said, actually I got 0% in my MME. I probably wouldn't go there in single entry. Model saying you can get away. You said from the beginning when Giddey got traded, he would have a great year. Started off rough, but put the pass behind him and he started balling out. You're getting more Kenrich than Highsmith. That's the last game, right? OKC. It's an interesting one. Yeah, we'll talk about that possible pivot too. My Lakers take on the Memphis Grizzlies in highest total game. Yeah, I think this is the highest, and then Indiana and OKC is second in that last game. 239.5 total, 3-point spread. Why are these ownerships so low, fellas? Luka at 15 and 21%. It's not that hard to get over the field. I just showed you all the value the model's giving us. LeBron James has been kind of uncomfortable recently because he's been terrible. I mean, all right. So people were saying he was like faking the injury and then he was like jumping around at his son's championship game. He was doing full court sprints like a week before he came back. And then he comes back and he just doesn't look right. His production's been down across the board. I don't think it's still just adjusting to Luka because I thought they adjusted pretty well right before he got hurt. At least he took 20 shots last game. Minutes are crazy for LeBron, dude. This guy's so old. We have projected for 37 at these ownerships. I'm over the field on LeBron on both sides right now. It's really easy to pay up for him. And so if it wasn't for all that injury concern, LeBron would be my guy here today, actually, over Luka. And Luka has a higher OF index, but LeBron is a better points per dollar value on both sides. And so if you can look past the injury stuff, and I usually say if they're good to go, they're good to go. But watching the game, LeBron is not 100% right now. So that's my fear. Model can't pick up on that. But the model does think he's a good play at the 16 and 20% ownership. So we can get over the field on LeBron. If you're comfortable with that, I am. Over on Luka too. Everyone else here, super low owned. Austin Reeves, 9% on FanDuel, under 8K is probably worth some shots. FanDuel value, that's actually elite over on FanDuel. So he's worth more than some shots at 9%. I need to adjust because I didn't quite get there on FanDuel to Austin Reeves. Only other guy I got here is Rui, 4,700 on FanDuel at 4% ownership. He's probably got to be worth some shots, right? No one's playing him. Rui's the type of guy who will spike a ceiling by hitting 4 threes. And I mean, he has to do something else. He didn't do anything else but hit the 4 threes. So only put up 22, but he's worth more than 4% today. Model thinks he's not terrible on FanDuel. If he's like your last guy type in, that seems pretty good to me. Is there anyone who's here? Jackson Hayes, elite value on DraftKings, 4,500, 1% owned center. He's only going to do it once every 6 games, and he did just do it last game. But if you get that 1% spike on a night that there's not that many great centers except for Sar, I mean, on this night, I don't think it ended up mattering because other guys went off. But I mean, if we get 32.5 from Jackson Hayes tonight, like if you told me he was going to give me 32.5 points, I would just lock him in my lineups right now. Obviously, most of the time we're going to get this 18, 20, maybe even 10, but he's worth more than 1% according to the model. Other side of this game, Memphis. Jaws still questionable. Let me just double check. Sorry, guys. If you see news that I should be talking about that I don't, please just let me know because, like I said, it's kind of hard to keep up right now. Got news for tomorrow. So Memphis, I'm actually surprised I wasn't getting much ownership. The field's not really getting there either. I'm looking at DraftKings right now. JJJ stands out as a lead value. Jalen Wells, too. That's a possible value pivot. Another guy at 3,400 projected for 7% ownership. He had a good game last time. This is another guy that I just have to question the ceiling. If you're playing small field satellite stuff, especially if Jaw's back, I don't think he's a good play. Model's identifying him as a really strong value, though, so we can mix him in for sure. JJJ, 14.2 DK value, 13.4 FanDuel value is pretty strong with the OF index, under 10% ownership. Yep, I'm interested in getting over the field on JJJ. Desmond Bane doesn't rank out quite as well on DraftKings, but on FanDuel, he's pretty close. We can definitely get over this 8% over there, too, even if Jaw's in. Santi Aldama, I think he kind of burned me a little bit last time, but I'm going to go right back, 5,800 at 12%. He's going to be much better if Ja Morant's ruled out, but even with him in, this actually might be a little bit high of ownership for him if Jaw's in, but the model does like him. 13, above 13 FanDuel value is fine. And then as for Ja, on DraftKings, the model's saying, 9,300. He's coming back from injury, projected for 29 minutes. But on FanDuel at 8K, 13.1 values, it's good enough. Keep in mind, the model does think he's worse than Bane and Jaren Jackson today. He's the third option from the studs on this team. I'll mention the Grizzlies fired their coach, and I've seen all the speculation. We'll have to see what comes out about it. But just based on what I've read, my impression is that him and the coach and Ja Morant, do not get along, and that had a big thing to do with it, that there's been locker room troubles. And we kind of saw Bane and Santi Aldama get into it last time, but that was a good get into it because Bane lost his assignment on defense. But I don't know. It could be another thing where, so they assigned the assistant coach to be the head coach for probably the rest of the season into the playoffs. Maybe they're feeling galvanized, with a new start. Like, all right, guys, let's pick it up today to go into the playoffs. And we're not adjusting anything for that, but I'm just saying these guys are all kind of under-owned according to the model anyway, at least on FanDuel. So don't mind taking a couple extra shots on them. Ja went through shoot around. All right. Yeah, I figured he's going to play. I mean, we have him in, and everything I was saying about JJJ and Desmond Bane still applied with Ja in. Stacking 4 Lakers in cash tonight? I don't think so. I don't even know what 4 Lakers, like Luca, LeBron, I guess Reeves and Rui, or Reeves and Hayes. I wouldn't do it. I'm not setting a rule for max 1 of LeBron or Luca, but I would set a rule max 2 of LeBron, Luca, and Reeves if I was getting a decent chunk of all those guys. Last game on the slate, fellas. We have Indiana at OKC. For Indiana, they're really just missing Benedict Mathurin today. According to the model, Miles Turner, he kind of always sticks out as value on DraftKings, 6,600 projected ownership, 9%. It's not a bad guy to get over the field on when he's under 10% ownership most days. Naismith, I guess he kind of stands out, lowish ownership too. I'm getting over the field on this 11%. Nemhard, borderline. Pascal doesn't stand out, 10 and 11%. There are other options, but that's not too high of ownership. I'm personally not getting there as of right now. And then Tyrese Halliburton, even though he's a little bit lower on the model, it's a terrible matchup against OKC. I don't mind taking a few shots. He's only 6 and 4% owned. It's a 9.5 point spread, 238 total. If Indiana stays close, you got to think Halliburton's having a good game. And so if you want to get a little bit of Halliburton, I don't mind it. But if it came down to it, I'd rather just find the extra, $2,000 and pay up for SGA. TJ McConnell projected for 2% and 1% ownership. I don't know if we have to get there today. Maybe if you think it's a blowout, but I don't really like doing that in 9.5 point spreads. And Obi Toppin, it's a guy that I don't mind taking a shot on. This is going beyond the model. Model thinks he's not great today. It's a tough matchup for him, but 4,200 on DraftKings. I know we have a lot of those 3,400 guys, but again, if he's like a last guy in type play, I don't mind that. Definitely play those other options first, though. Yeah, Timmy's not on DraftKings, or he's not on he's not playing today. Kobe Jones, last man in. It's probably okay if he's not starting. What was his price? Like 3,500. We had a few other guys that were 3,400. We'll get that news in like 10 minutes, I guess, on if Kobe Jones is starting. Last team on the slate tonight, OKC. So I mentioned SGA is probably going to be my pay up tonight. It's due to price, 10,800 on DK, 32% ownership. I'm well over that. That worked out well. We were way over the field on Jokic over Giannis yesterday too. So SGA and Giddey, I think, over the other pay ups. Mixing LeBron and Luka, obviously. Tatum is there as the lowest owned guy, but SGA, I think, is my stud for tonight. Model agrees. Strong OF index, good DK value, a little bit less good on FanDuel, 11,500, but we do have the value to get there, especially if you're playing Drew Timme. SGA is projected for 28% ownership. Who else stands out here? Kason Wallace. We like it when Kason Wallace is top of the model. We don't like it when he's 20% owned, though, but 4K. Because who's missing here? Caruso's questionable. Jalen Williams. The other Jalen Williams is questionable. Sorry, we got to stop calling him that. The taller Jalen Williams is questionable. Chet Holmgren's already out. Aaron Wiggins is already out. So I kind of get Kason Wallace. We're assuming he's starting, projected for 29 minutes. Yeah, well, his ownership's a little bit up there, but DK value, this is probably one of the best value plays on the day. Model agrees. On FanDuel, still good. Not as good, though, 4,800. It's either he's over-owned on FanDuel or he's under-owned on DraftKings, and I'm going to lean towards he's under-owned on DraftKings, so I don't mind getting over on him a bit. And then Hartenstein with no Chet, yeah, he's going to look pretty good. 6,800 on DraftKings, 13.9 DK value, strong, 13.3 FanDuel value, good. Strong. I don't mean to sound like it's less good. 7,100 on FanDuel. Around this 20% ownership, I don't mind it. I like targeting players against Indiana, and Hartenstein is showing up model approved today, so I kind of like that. And that question earlier, Hartenstein versus Vooch, I have more Hartenstein in my exposures. Maybe that few $100s is valuable today. Jalen Williams, I think he's a tournament play, 15% on FanDuel, 8,300. It's okay. And then 7% at 8,500 on DraftKings. Model thinks he's borderline, double-digit OF index at least, so we can play him. And then I saw Power mention Kenrich Williams over Haywood Highsmith. Let's take a look. That's a sneaky one because, so we have Chet out. Yeah, we have Chet out. People might not be thinking about Kenrich. This isn't a guy that optimizers are going to jam in today. Minutes have been not awesome, but he's projected for 2% ownership. Model doesn't hate him. Model thinks he's okay. We would want a little bit more since he's so cheap, but projected for 19 minutes. I don't hate it. I don't think I'd flip the ownership on Highsmith, though. I would kind of just want to spread it out around all these cheap 3,400 guys. And then let's take another look at center. Let me refresh here. I can tell you for a single entry on DraftKings right now. Never mind, I'm not running this lineup. I'm guessing my center is going to be Sar on DraftKings. Right now it's Bam, but I need to change that because this lineup's not good. Over on FanDuel, yeah, same thing. Bam, Hartenstein, and Sar are the three guys I'm getting. And then maybe if you really need the savings, Cornet is a possible deep play if like the rest of your lineup's kind of chalky. Yeah, Timmy's not in the DraftKings player pool, so you don't have to worry about him there. It's kind of funny, though. Like, he played 24 minutes in the previous game. That was 2 days ago. That's enough time to add a player to the player pool. Minutes projection on Hartenstein, you have 26. It sounds low. We have him for 28. I personally have him for 29. So, yeah, I'm a little bit higher than the model. But I think that's a pretty safe projection, right? Because when I'm like setting projections like this on guys like Hartenstein, I want them to have the potential to play a little bit more. I think Chet was in this game, so we're just hoping he gets up to 32, 33. If we project him for 32, though, at his rates, we probably just get 100%. We can't do that. It's too much because he's not always going to play 31 minutes. Oh, you have Kenrich starting, playing 23 minutes in a higher total game. Okay, let me see. Yeah, if he ends up starting, what time? This is the last game. People aren't going to, well, I guess 4 games all start at the same time. It's a dumb schedule. So people are going to have the spots to swap, but maybe they won't. Remember, it's Saturday. We got a lot of stuff going on today. So this is like prime time to take advantage of late news. If we get that news that Kenrich is starting, that's probably a really good pivot to make. I don't know that we're getting that much of an advantage by planning for it right now, but it's really easy to swap out of if you do. And I think it should be easy to swap into if you don't. So it's one to keep in mind, fellas. Do I think Bona could get extra run with Miami's 2 bigs? I mean, maybe he could, but I feel like we had enough other plays. Bona's up to 4,600 on DK. He's been putting up some pretty strong scores. Andre Drummond's ruled out for at least 5 more games or something, so it's just a matter of the minutes. Let's take a look. We have Adam Bona projected for 22.6, 0%. I mean, at 0%, we can take shots, yeah. Yeah, I don't think this is a guy that we want to base our day around, but just remember, it's a really terrible matchup because there's 2 sides to what you said. You know, they probably could use his help on the court since Miami has really good bigs, but it's also a difficult matchup. So, I mean, we're always going to lean towards the extra playing time, though, regardless of the matchup. All right, I'm going to try to build a dummy. Usually going to start with the value, but I think what I have here is pretty good. We'll start with SGA at point. Remember, SGA would usually go down here, but I'm trying to do this quick so we can get out of here. I'm going to put in Carrington actually as kind of a tournament play. Really like that at low ownership. That could be our lone guy. Josh Giddey's obviously in here. All right, let's refresh the model one more time. Let's take one more quick look at Brooklyn to see if anything changed. Nope, Drew Timme still for 20 minutes. So our Brooklyn guy on DraftKings, I mean, Keon Johnson is projected for 13% ownership. I put in Carrington. Keon's a little more expensive, but just consider Carrington the pivot, I guess. Keon could go in there if you're trying to make like the Occupy build. No, Clowney's okay if he starts. I don't want to jam him in, though. I'd be worried that his ownership comes up too much. Other values. If Alec Burks starts, he's probably a really good play at 3,300. Davion Mitchell. Let's go ahead and put Davion Mitchell in here at 4,300. Davion Mitchell. Pretty sure we're going to have Sar in here too. Let's see who else. Kason Wallace, one of the top plays on the model. Yeah, let's see if we can fit him in. Actually, we can't. Let's put in Davion over Carrington, actually. Davion Mitchell. Oh, I already have Davion in there. We don't want him in the util, though. Oh, it's point guard only, huh? All these guys are point guard only? It's interesting. Giddey and SGA are point guard only, so if you're making the lineup with both of them, it's a little restrictive. It's not too bad, though. All right, let's try it with Davion and just see what that gets us. I'm going to throw in Champagne, model approved value. Either one. Let's go with the one on Washington for now. We can put in a shooting guard, Kason Wallace. Leaves us 5150 for a power forward and a forward. Yeah, power forward today is not. I guess that's a hard position because I don't want to play Noah Clowney. I guess Highsmith is like the chalk guy. That's the obvious one. We could move Champagne down to power forward. We could play Champagne and his brother, small forward and power forward. That'd be fine. Shots on Buzelis. Paying up for JJJ if maybe you're not paying up for one of those other guys that we had in there. I mean, Kyle Anderson, I guess, is the pivot off of Haywood Highsmith. 3-1 ownership difference. It's not insignificant. Over on FanDuel, that's 22-1. Haywood Highsmith doesn't outscore Kyle Anderson 22 times out of 23, but at the same price, probably worth pivoting a little bit. Although the model does think that ownership's correct. Haywood Highsmith is the better play. I should say directionally correct. It's still a little bit too wide of a gap. I don't know. We have 5150 left. We don't have enough to pay up for anyone. Don't really want to get Rui here. I mean, Buzel is 4,500 top-in. We have some guys in this 4K range. I saw some questions about Hauser. Don't love it just with Horford out. It's not the type of play that we want to play. Throw in Highsmith just to see what that gets us. 6,900 in util. Devin Vassell. Or in forward, I should say. It's not great. Yeah, maybe you move something around, but the model loves all of these guys today. So mix them up. Maybe get a low on Carrington in there. Over on FanDuel, I think Drew Timmy's a good play. He could be a DNP. He's going to be very highly owned, but model has one game sample on him. It's hard to just take what the model says and say this is what he is today, but I'm doing it. I'm playing a bunch of Drew Timmy over on FanDuel. How much did I get? I have to rerun, but we'll see. I think we got Jayhawk over in the Q&A, so hopefully he figured out his audio situation. You can get his takes. Instructions to join that are in the description below. RotoWire has Timmy for 27? I can tell you, no matter what, that's a bad projection. Just, he only played 24 last game. I know that they're short on bigs, but they're going to do some weird stuff. You can't project your Timmy for 27 minutes. You get 100%. I mean, we have him for 20. Even if you want to give him the 24 he played last game, you still probably get 100% though. So I don't know. I don't want to play 100% Timmy, but I am going to play a lot of him on FanDuel. He's a really good play. I don't know. Earlier, other sites didn't have him projected for minutes. At least we have him projected for minutes. I'm sure they're going to catch up now and change that, but I don't know. Maybe he just comes in less than 50% owned and we just feel really good about it. Washington. Oh, thank you. Starting lineup for Washington. We got Poole, Carrington, AJ Johnson, Champagne, and Sarr. AJ Johnson is the guy that I want to get away from. Alec Burks is in too, so we can mix in Alec Burks into that dummy if you can, fit him anywhere. I'm going to take a quick look back at AJ Johnson because I think I kind of ignored him. He's going to come in owned. 4,300 on DK, 4,900 on FanDuel. We had him projected for 28. I just don't like it if he's chalk, but the DraftKings price is too low. He played 27 minutes and put up 6 fantasy points last game. So that's the range of outcomes here. 6 to 31. Lean towards like low 20s. It just, I don't know. Maybe refresh the model. Ask Jayhawk what his ownership looks like in 10, 15 minutes. If it comes up, I really think you can just get away. Take a shot on Carrington. I know he's a little more expensive, but if he puts up that ceiling, you might win a tournament. And do I like Kobe Jones off the bench? I'm assuming the model already thought he was coming off the bench. 3,500. The ownership's too high if he's not starting. But maybe some of that was with the hope that he was starting. Like, they were kind of just averaging the minutes between his starts and his coming off the bench. But we have him for 27. That's probably a good minutes projection for him. He's not great. At the ownership, it's probably a little bit too high. I wouldn't avoid him completely, though. He's okay. And then thoughts on Smart? I'm probably never going to be in on Smart, but the problem is he's cheap, 3,800. I just don't know what the minutes are going to be. 12 versus 24. We have Marcus Smart for 16, and he's single-digit value. I just don't think you have to consider him. We have enough guys that are under 4K today that look much better. So, man, appreciate you guys staying with us through the whole show. Did that one solo. I think it went okay. I hope that the information works. Like I mentioned, Jayhawk will be in the Discord. We got MLB season underway, so we have the plug for that coming every day. Yeah, appreciate you guys. See you tomorrow. Thanks.